What's up? What's up? What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Bully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Today is Monday, December the 14th. We are back in the studio rocking and rolling for another episode of the Grief Bully podcast. I'm super excited about today's episode. But before we get into that, I definitely want to encourage you to go back, check out last week's episode. It was me basically explaining and expressing how I believe grief has so many different faces. It can never be put into 5 stages. It's on YouTube. Definitely go check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Subscribe, hit the bell, hit the notification bell as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And guys, share it with someone else. We are all in this together. It's super important for us as a community to make sure that we're helping each other fight grief. So thank you in advance for doing that. I want to thank our sponsors, BetterHelp. They are an online counseling organization that they can help you with therapy from the privacy of your home through chat, through video message, phone calls, whatever your comfort level is, they can absolutely help you out. And they are affordable, averaging about $65 per week. And when you use my link, trybetterhelp.com/thegriefbully, you will receive 10% off your first month. So again, trybetterhelp.com/the grief bully. You're going through a tough time in your life. You need some help, some guidance and assistance. I definitely want to recommend them. So, housekeeping out of the way. We are back in the studio. I have a guest with me today. I'm not by myself, and I'm really excited about it for a lot of reasons, and we'll definitely get into it. But I want to welcome to the show today the King, Mr. Levi Anderson. Levi, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Guys, if you're watching this, then you will see that he has an amazing smile. As soon as we hit record, I'm like, wow, he has an affectionate smile. I'm excited. The energy is good, and that's cool because we both know that we're here to talk about grief. And so for us to be able to have that kind of energy around it starting out, then I think that's awesome. Levi is a recording artist, so definitely check out his music. I'll have him be able to talk about that towards the end. But social media. So the thing about social media is that sometimes people give it a bad rap and they're like, oh, social media this, social media that. But for me personally, it's been super beneficial and it's allowed me to connect with different people all across the world. I believe you're out in LA, correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm
So
in
so
LA.
yeah. So he's out in LA and this is how we connected. We both follow country cooking. So shout out to Aunt Salt. Thank God.
Hey,
Let's thank
hey, Saul.
God. Hey Salt. What up? Y'all see it? So we're just so excited and I'm thankful to God that she's doing better and
Oh
doing
yeah.
well, right? Because that was definitely and still is a recovery for her as far as that. But you commented on her page, and it was around the time that it was her son's birthday, and he was like hugging her and all of these things like that. And I saw that you commented that you loved the way that she loved her son, and that it reminded you essentially of your relationship with your mom, who had passed away in March. And so a lot of people might not even pay that much attention. It might just go right past them, or it's not because it's not, say, like gossipy or drama or what have you. But for me, as the grief bully and someone who does this every day and has a heart for bereaved people, I instantly gravitated towards it. I went from that. I think I might have commented something to you, and then I went to your page. I kind of looked back at the story, and then I went right to the DM. I slid in his DMs, guys. I slid in the DM, and I'm like, listen, I want to extend my love to you, and
Yeah.
it's super important because I want, most importantly, for people to know that they've been seen. So how did you feel about that? Just a stranger, a random person, just kind of like, I guess, like being a little invasive as far as loss after a comment on a social media post.
Well, me personally, I was shocked. I haven't had anybody that I pretty much everybody that has hit me up through this year has been like friends, family. So for someone to just randomly just reach out and just give their condolences like that, that was surprising for me. And something just told me to just, you know what, I'm just gonna see where this goes. Maybe we might have the same story. For me, it was like, who is this? Wait a minute. Let me see if
Yeah.
we can vibe off each other's energy. And And then like through the DMs, you just seemed like really, really cool, chill, down to earth. So I just was like, and then I found out you did a podcast, and I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta get on a podcast with her, and I just want to share my story. Yeah, so for me, I wasn't like super caught off guard, but at the same time, I was more open than anything because I haven't shared my story on like I would say like a podcast or radio. It's just been only like social media, friends, family. So I was just more open to anything and just open, willing to just share more of my story.
That's beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for not reporting my page. No, I'm kidding. But it's an amazing thing when we can connect there and have that commonality. And I want to say that I am proud of you. I think that the bravery and the transparency
Thank
that
you.
you've exemplified on your social media, not a lot of people do that. And not only that, but not a lot of men and not a lot of men of color do that. And so for me to go back and be able to look over your social media and just see the different posts and tributes to your mom and also your mental health and just a lot of those things and just be very open with that. I wanted to hear more about your story. So to be honest with you, you just beat me to it. It was already coming. I was going to say, hey, we've got to connect. We got to get you on the show. We need to do these things and make it happen. So let's get into your story. I'm sure you have a lot of life, but I know in March you had an unfortunate loss. And I know that 2020 for a lot of us has been very difficult when it comes to grief and sorrow. So let's just start there. Where were we on March 9th of 2020?
Well, March 9th for me was with my mom. She was still in the hospital. And at the time when I got the news, I was at home and I was laying down, and my mom, she had been in the hospital since July of last year. So she got admitted in July, and she was in the hospital for, I want to say, 3 months, and she got out and then she went back in. So the second time she went back in, she stayed until March. So on March 9th, when I got the call, I was sleeping, and I got the call from the hospital, and they called twice. The first time I didn't get their call, but the second time they woke me up. And when I answered, that's when the nurse broke the news. So instantly I kind of just was like, okay, this is what's going on. And I just was trying to think of how am I going to tell my sister? Cause she was at work, when all of this had happened. From there on out, for me, that was, I didn't expect to lose someone so close to me at such a young age. I'm still in my 20s, so everything happens for a reason. For me, I had to accept that my mom, she was no longer in pain, or she wasn't dealing with the things that she was dealing with in the hospital. Because from July all the way until March, I was back and forth to the hospital, me and my sisters, and it was really traumatizing, but heartbreaking at the same time to see someone in the hospital, and you couldn't really do much but be there for them. And for me, I prayed every day, and me and my sisters, we did the best that we could for my mom while she was in the hospital. And when I got the call, it just was just like, wow, I was kind of just, the feeling that I got that day, it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me right away until I left the hospital. And when I left the hospital, that's when it hit me. And I just was like, wow, this is really happening, because it kind of felt like a dream at first. But for me, I had to kind of say, my mom, she's still with me, not physically, but spiritually, she's still here. And I talk to her every single day. Like I'll be in the mirror and I'm just holding a conversation, not like talking to myself, but just kind of
I get
talking to her,
it.
because I know, and I know that she's like around, and I get different signs from God. I see a lot of like angel number. So I know that when I see like her birthday, her birthday's 12. Her birthday is this month actually, December 22nd. So every time I see like 1222, I'm like, that's mom. That's my mom. She's around. She's watching me. And that's when I started going back into the studio. Like the next month after, I started recording, doing different songs, because that music really saved me. Because I feel like I was drifting into like a dark, really dark space. So I just went into the studio. I started writing. I started recording, and that's when I ended up putting out my song called "Worthless," which came out like I want to say in April, and everyone was hitting me up, and they was like, "I really love this song, and you're so brave, and I thank you for just being so vulnerable, because it really took a lot to get into the studio, first write the song, get into the studio, record it, put it out, and I just wanted people to feel where I was coming from and where I was at that time.
Do you
But
feel like
yeah,
do you feel like you're still, so some of the lyrics to the song about feeling like if you looked at your life, well, if someone else was to look at your life and what they would see, what would we see? What would we see?
Well, it's funny because you're the second person that had that point out that lyric.
Yeah,
And
it was like sticking. It was sticking with me because I think that is so important, and that's why I love to have this podcast and why we do come on and share our stories. Because I had something before where it was like, if you knew my story, and I think it's so much power in really knowing that when you see people and you actually see them and you see their struggle and you can see what they're going through, it kind of can change the dynamics of your relationship and also your ability to coexist with people. So I'm just curious about that, like right now in present day, not so much in March or the months leading up to that, but just like right now, what will we see?
You would see someone that is moving forward, that is more closer to God. You see a man that is definitely, definitely really, really accepted, I guess, everything that life has brought me this year. And I just wanted to really this year let go of a lot of different things, such as just any type of grudges, or even though I don't hold grudges, but anything that didn't serve me this year, I just wanted to let all that go, because I felt like life is too short to hold on to anything. And you see someone that's still a work in progress, For me, I'm working on myself every single day. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect, and I work on myself every day. I work on a lot of different things that I need to work on, and it for me it's a process. I'm still working. I'm still moving, going, pushing forward. I'm still standing.
Do you give yourself credit for that? Do you give yourself credit for still moving and still standing? Because I feel like when we go through loss, especially the loss of a parent, I've lost a parent as well. You may or may not know that. Not my mother. I lost my father 2019, so last year, but closer to 2 years ago. And I wonder, it's okay, thank you. I wonder about that, if you give yourself credit, the fact that your mother passed away in March, so it hasn't even been a year, and that you're still getting dressed and you still can come onto a podcast with a huge smile and still be willing to offer your light. Do you give yourself credit for that?
I have to be honest with you. At first, I didn't.
Mm.
At first, I didn't give myself credit, because I didn't. I feel like I was still trying to figure out everything. I was still, even back in March, I just was trying to figure out, like, where do I go from here? How's my life going to be moving forward? That was my thing. And another thing, I didn't want to disappoint my mom, So that's why at the beginning, I kind of numbed myself, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to, how can I say it? I didn't want to, I didn't want to fall. I didn't want to go so deep into a dark space to where I couldn't get out. And so that's why something told me, Levi, you gotta go back into the studio. You gotta get creative. That's the only way you can release your pain and release everything that you're feeling right now, And also at the time, that's when the coronavirus, that's when that all came out. So it was that plus that, and it was a challenge. It was challenging for me, challenging time. I would say, but
that makes
I
perfect
just
sense. That makes perfect sense to me that it would feel like that. And I think I wouldn't say that you were in denial, but sometimes denial has a grace. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we don't allow ourselves to feel everything all at once, it actually is a good thing to an extent because it allows us to compartmentalize and take on what we can as we can. And so I'm not advocating on avoidance and just completely like forgetting it, but I do understand that from my own experience, when a wound is so fresh, you kind of do have to go into that self-defense mode where you're like, hey, listen, like if I really dive into this and I really allow myself to sit into this, where will I go? Like you just said, this can become a very dark time in my life. So sometimes we do have to kind of keep moving and not really sit in it and just kind of do that. On days when you do fully sit in it, you're like, and I'm going to kind of go there and I hope this is okay. When you sit there and you're just like, wow, like my mom really died. What are those moments like? What are those days like for you?
those days for me, I really I just sit there and I look back through the whole process of it all, like from the time it happened until the time it ended, which was in March. For me, I know, and I feel that she's okay. She is in a better place, and she's not suffering or anything. That pushes me forward, because I know that she's not in any pain, or she's not. She made it. She graduated from life, and that for me, that puts a smile on my face. I don't. Of course, I have my good days and bad days. I get emotional and I think about, that's my mom. I miss her and I wish she was here. Even this past holiday on Thanksgiving, I had a little moment, but I had to remind myself, she will want you to be happy. She wants you to enjoy this time with your friends and your family. So I kind of was in that space for a little bit and I had to get out of it. I would not say get out of it, but just kind of remind myself it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And she's still with you, Don't ever think for a second she's not with you, because she's with you all the time. She's checking in on you. That's how I kind of program myself that she's always still around.
Do you feel like you've had permission to grieve? Do you feel like as a man, as a young man, and as a man of color that you've been like, hey, I can actually cry, I can feel how I feel, or do you feel like you've had to just kind of thrust forward and be strong?
I had to be okay with that after a while. Growing up, I grew up in a lot of adversity. I was around different many environments. I was taught, a man has to be strong. He has to, men can't cry. Boys can't cry. And as I got older, I kind of programmed myself, like in my teen years, don't show emotions, don't, But after, I would say after 25, I kind of was like, you know what? Why can't I cry? It's human. It's human nature to cry, and it's human nature to feel sad and to feel all these different emotions. So I would say now I'm more so okay with, if I feel some type of way, I'll let it out. I'll just let it out.
Good.
And I think for me, I think it's healthy to let certain emotions out. Like even I have a song that I've written about my mom called "Lost You," and in the studio, I just kind of teary eyed. And at first, I was like, "No, I can't do this. I can't. I can't cry. In the studio, what am I doing?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had to snap out of it. I was like, "No, it's okay. This is the process. I need to get this out. Because for me, I feel like people will feel that in my song if I just get it out and not holding anything back. So yeah, so now in the studio, if I feel something, I'll I'll cry or I'll be a little teary eyed, and I'm okay with that. I'm more comfortable with my emotions now, and just being more vulnerable and being more open and transparent with how I feel and what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. So thank you. And if you did say that you don't cry, then I was going to catch a flight to LA and beat you up because I'll give you something to cry for. Ever heard your mom say that before? Oh my goodness, I'll give you something to cry for. Then
That's my mom.
I'm telling you,
She
that's all I
was
used to hear. I'm like, well, that's kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like you want to give me something to cry for, but I'm already crying. So whatever. But yeah, I used to hear that all the time too. But I'm
my
happy
mom
that
said the same thing.
yeah, it's so funny. I'm so happy that you have given yourself that space and that permission to grieve, to heal, to grow. You seem to have a optimistic perspective, and I'm aware. I know that every day is not like that, and that there are moments that are certainly difficult and tough. But it seems like you've been able to channel everything into, for the most part, into a positive. What I would consider your music is a healthy coping mechanism, and allowing yourself to feel and to bring others into your story and to tell your story. And so, what would you offer to let's just say your future self? So right now, if you were talking to your future self about what you experienced in 2020 and how you've been able to make it, let's maybe say 5 years down the road, like what would you say? What would you say to that, Levi? Like because he made it 5 years from this year and everything he went through. It's a
Man,
deep one,
that's a good
Levi. It's a
question.
deep one.
That's a deep one. You got deep with me on that one.
Got deep with you.
You know
Take your
what?
time.
I
Take your
would
time.
honestly, because for me, I'm always changing. I'm always evolving, and for me, what would I say to the 5 years from now me? I would say you came far. You came far. You did.
I
You
felt
know.
chills with that, man. Wow.
Came far and just keep going and just keep going no matter what. And I know that there will be more to come, because this is life and we all have to deal with different situations, but you made it this far, you you'll be okay.
I love that. And you know what? Your answer was so powerful in the sense that it was so short, in the sense that like that's all we need sometimes. And the reason why that question came up, and I've never actually asked anyone that on this podcast, so just so you know, it came up. And what it is that what I heard in there is that in those moments when it is dark and it is tough between now and those 5 years, that if you just hear like you came so far, it's like right now it would give me hope to lean into that overcomer spirit, and knowing that like you can get to a point where you'll thank yourself 5 years down the road if you don't give up.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you just don't give up every single day, if you get through, even it has to be, someone asked me recently, how would I offer that to someone to get through their grief? And I'm like, you have to literally do it even less than 24 hours at a time. You've got to just do it 1 hour. Okay, whew, I got through that. 24 hours, you go to bed, you're like, man, thank God I made it through another day. The next day is here, I made it through another day. Because there are people, and you've posted about this and talked about, there are people who really struggle with mental illness and mental health, and there's people who commit suicide, and there's people who, excuse me, commit suicide. Yes. No, not commit suicide. There are people who die by suicide. I wanted to correct myself with that because I've been really working on that, and suicide is close to home for me. And so when someone helped me understand that it's, when you say committed, is more presented as like a crime, whereas that they die by suicide. And so that's just a little nugget and gem for everyone out there too. But yeah, so there are so many things that have the ability to take us out of here mentally and emotionally. So for you to lose your mother and still make it 5 years down the road, 1 year down the road, what are we just past 6 months or 8 months? So you might know better than I do as far as March and now down the road. It's a lot to be said for that. It's a lot to be said for
Absolutely.
that, right? And there's no manual. There's no guide. There's nothing that just says this is the exact path that you have to take. This is the exact thing that if you do this, this, and this, you're going to survive grief and you won. And it's not like that. It's a lifelong
Yeah.
thing. And so I'm happy that you've been able to channel all of those things into that. And so what I want to do briefly though here is I want to bounce into our In Love and Memory segment. It's a part of our show where we like to humanize and show love to our angels and to our loved ones that have gone on before us, and just send love to the family. And so this week, with having you on the show, Levi, I want to say our In Love and Memory segment this week is going to go out to your mother. And I saw her picture, so I can say your beautiful mother. So your
Thank
beautiful
you.
mother, Falisa. And may she continue to rest well. And I send lots of love to yourself and your sisters and your other family members and friends. So please, from the Grief Bully podcast and myself, just hope that you accept our love with that.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate that. It's a blessing to get through this year. I know, and it's been tough for a lot of us. Just waking up every single day knowing that I'm still here. For me, it's a gift, and I don't take it for granted. And I'm so grateful. I'm so deeply grateful to still be here. Because I know, for me, like, I've known a lot of people that haven't made it this far, and for me to say I'm still here, that says a lot. So but thank you so much.
I love that. No, I'm still here. I love that. And so, you know what? It actually gets me into our inspirational boost, which is a part of our show that is brought to us by our sponsors, Adina J Designs. They make, create, and inspire us through decorated apparel, wood signs, custom tumblers, doormats. They've got so many amazing things going on right now for the holiday season. Follow them on both Facebook and Instagram at Adina J Designs, ADENA JAY Hey, listen, let them know I sent you. You might get a discount. I don't know, but it's worth trying. And so our quote this week is, love gives us memories. Faith gives us strength. And I think it's perfect. Yeah, I think it's perfect for this. What do you think about it? I'll read it again. Love gives us memories. Faith gives us strength.
Yeah, that's deep right there. That's deep. And for me, my faith is always changing, like, for the better, to be stronger, and closer to God. So I know a lot about that, So
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's a deep one right there.
That's awesome. So I have two more questions for you. And this first one will be, if you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
I would say I actually have two colors, but I'm gonna choose one.
You can get two. You can get two. I'm gonna let you get two. I think I handle the rules around here. So you can get two. You got it.
Well, the first color would be white. I think white is so, the color white, especially on us, on women of color, men of color, we look so beautiful in white. And white represents purity and healing and everything that falls in line with all of that. So I would definitely choose white. Like I said, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still healing, move forward, especially with this year. I know this has been a crazy year for a lot of us. So white is definitely, I would say white. I was gonna choose blue. That would be my second color, because I know blue actually has a lot of different meanings. Definitely has to do with healing as well. Yeah. Blue, white and blue.
White and blue. I love it. And I would have to agree, white does look good on us melanated people. So I appreciate that. At least I always feel good when I wear white. And so the last thing, as we start to wrap up here, I just want to know, what would you just offer to our audience? Something that you learned along your journey, or just that you want to kind of leave us with from having the opportunity to learn from you today and to spend this time with you?
I would say, if you're going through anything, please don't give up. I know that it may be hard at that particular moment, but things do get better. What's that saying? There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and God is always with us. He lives inside of me. He lives inside of all of us. So I would say, just don't give up. Put a post about suicide. I knew a couple of people that wanted to choose that path, and I say suicide is not the answer. There is help out there, and it does get better. And I just want people to learn from me, because a lot of people have hit me up and say, you seem like you're doing, well. And I say, well, yeah, but I do have my moments, because, people on social media, they see the glory, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
really know the story. So that's why I put pictures and put posts and stuff just to give them like an update of what's going on with me, and knowing that I'm still moving forward. I'm still pushing. I'm still standing, keeping God first. I would just say things get better. Don't give up. I know that sounds so easy to say. It's easier said than done, but it really, like for me, because I had my moments, and I just said if I just try to move forward and to keep pushing, I think I'll see different results through the year, and things have been getting better. So I would say to the audience, please don't give up. You need to reach out to me. I'm always, you want to talk to me, I share each other's stories. I would say things get better, and just know that God is always around. He's always around us. And yeah, I would say just please don't give up. That would be
Yeah.
my main.
Listen, you might think it's simple, but honestly, you offering that to the audience, I believe that, and I can believe that someone listening, whenever they're listening to it, right, because it's something that doesn't expire, they might hear that right in the time where they need to hear someone telling them, "Don't give up, and keep going." Listen, you've been a phenomenal guest, and I'm happy to have had you here. I'm looking forward to
Thank you
continue
so
to connect
much.
with you and go for it. Where can we follow you? Where can we hear your music?
Oh man, you can follow me. Well, my Instagram is King Papa. You just spell it King X Papa, Poppa. That's the name on my Instagram. Also on my Spotify, Levi. You can just type in my first name, Levi. Apple Music. I'm pretty much everywhere. Apple Music. My single Worthless is out now. I have a new project. This is my life as it is now. It's an EP that'll be dropping in January. So it'll be like 6 songs, and I've been working on this whole year. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to do that body of work. So I can't wait for everyone to hear it. I do follow back. So if you do follow me on Instagram, I will follow back. So I'm not one of the artists that don't follow back or only have 0
Right.
followers. Or, I will follow. But yeah, you can check me out. I'm also going to start doing YouTube next year. So I'll be putting out videos just talking about different things. I'll probably be doing skits and music, more music to come. I want to share my story. I want to connect with everyone out there.